Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today, let's talk about more tarp shelter options. Stay tuned. In my last shelter video, I had a question about what would you do if you couldn't find trees that were far enough apart for you to put up your tarp shelter. And so I'm going to go ahead and make another video or two on the tarp shelter and some other options. And we're going to go back down to a different field and show you exactly what I would do in different situations depending on the weather that I knew I was going to face. And so let's get to it. Follow me. So here we are walking to where we're going to be putting up our tarp shelters, and as you can see, there's a bunch of really beautiful purple flowers here growing on these tall stems, and that is ironweed, and it just grows prolifically down here in this part of the world here in southern Ohio. Just beautiful colors. Here's a close-up of some of the beautiful purple flowers on the ironweed, and then scattered throughout over there we've got some different colors of flowers, some yellows and some whites mixed in. Here's a little better view of some of the wildflowers growing here in the field, and here of course some more. A little bug on top there. And then going over here, we have some Queen Anne's lace. The first shelter that I showed you, the Versa shelter with some cam jam additions instead of the bungees, is one of the configurations is known as a flying wedge. But there's a couple other configurations that I think you should know. The flying wedge, of course, spirits come into the video, but the flying wedge, of course, is only good for very light rain or just to keep the dew off of you. It's really great in wintertime, especially if you've got a fire in front of you because of the reflection of the heat, the thermal radiation from the fire. It really gathers into that space under the roof and with that wall behind you. But if you have any kind of driving rain, if you're into any kind of serious weather, there's at least two other configurations that you need to know. And there's a lot of tarp configurations. So I don't claim to be an expert. These are just the ones that I have used and like to set up and that I teach. The first one only had one side, and that was closed to the wind. And this next one is going to be a two-sided shelter. And it has a very classic look and design. Now, again, there's a mosquito flying around my head here. One of my viewers asked, what do you do if you don't have any trees? Well, where I am, as you can see, I have plenty of trees, so I never run out of options and a place to tie my tarp. But what I want to do is I want to show you how to set up the Versa shelter if you don't have any trees. And that's the reason why having the military tent poles along with you is such a valuable asset when it comes to carrying the shelter in the configuration that I showed you. All right, so we're going to drop the pack here and get the Versa shelter off of the bottom right here. Very simple, it's just held on by these two straps here. And there we have it. Of course, you've seen this in the last video for those of you who watched it. And if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link right up here so you can watch that first shelter video. So let's go ahead and open this, and I'll show you what's inside and how we're going to set it up for two sides to shield against the rain. So again, as we open this up, we have our very standard tarp, the 6x8 tarp that we got from Home Depot. It is a heavy duty tarp and has a silver inside that helps reflect the heat. We also have this windshield cover here to help protect your dash from ultraviolet radiation that we use as a sleeping pad. We'll set that to the side. In here, of course, we have our tent poles, and there are 6 of them total for 2 different poles. We have 4 stakes, and then of course our 2 cam jams. Now, the only addition that you need to make is you will need to add 2 more stakes. And I checked these out at Walmart. They're 59 cents a piece, so they're not expensive. Tarp is $8. Your stakes, of course, 59 cents a piece. You can get these poles for just a few dollars. They vary, of course, being military surplus. And then the cam gems are $8 for a set. So basically how you set this up is very, very simple. So you got to open it up, and you want to make sure that it is opened up in the long position. So 6 foot wide, 8 feet long. And again, we want the silver side out. So here we have our basic tarp setup like this. All right, now, the problem that we have is with this particular tarp setup, because it's 6 by 8, there are grommets in the very middle on the 8 foot length. But the problem is that would make a nice top peak, plenty of height for us to get into, but the real issue is it's not long enough to prevent rain from coming in on either end. I'm almost 6 feet tall, the tarp is 6 feet long, and so if rain comes in at all, it's going to get either your head or your feet wet. So we want to set it up in the 8 foot configuration. So what do? Well, again, at Home Depot, they sell these very excellent tarp clips. And essentially it's just a screw that tightens down. It's got some teeth in it, as you can see, and it's got a hole. So what we do is we identify the very center of our tarp, and then we use these plastic clips. They're very lightweight, but they're very tough. So let's go ahead and do that. The best way to identify the center is to take our 2 holes here and match them up, and we find that the exact center is right there. And it's right where the fold is, of course. So that's another good way. We're going to slide this on right where that fold is, all the way to where the let me show you here. Slide that on all the way to where the screw is, and we just tighten that down nice and tight. All right, there we go. Now we have a pull in the middle. I'll do that to the other end and get back with you. Okay, so we've got these tarp clips screwed on here and fastened down really tight. And I would recommend that if you do carry a tarp like this, that you do get a couple of these tarp clips, because you can have a grommet rip out in a high wind, or just from wear and tear, not expecting it. So if you have a couple of these along with you, they're great instant repairs. Yes, you can use duct tape, tape it around it, poke a hole in it, and that'll work. But these are a lot better. They work a lot quicker. They're really lightweight. They don't take up a lot of space, and they're not very expensive. I think they were $1.59 a piece. So very good to have. All right, so what we want to do next is we take our stakes, and of course we have 6 of them now. You should always carry 6, and you can carve pegs. Absolutely, that's totally doable. Nothing wrong with that. But I would highly recommend, generally speaking, that you bring some kind of metal pegs with you. These just work a lot better from the aspect that you may get into a place where there isn't good wood, or the ground is really rocky. And I've been in conditions like that where it was pretty much impossible to get a wooden stake in the ground, and so these steel ones work a lot better. All right, so what we do is we take a couple of these, and we want to stake down one side, one of our long sides. Just push them in the ground. So put one here, and then come over here and pull it out, put a little tension on it, and put in the other, just like that. All right, now what we want to do is we take just 2 of our tent poles, because we're kind of shortening this tarp by raising it in the middle. And we take this, and we come over here, and we put it in the hole, just like that. All right? And then we can use our can jams here, and we can clip onto it, like this. and then we'll stake it down to the ground. I'll move the camera and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so what we have here is we take our can jam, of course, and we clip it in first, like that. And then this tent pole here has this little piece on it here, of course, for fastening them together. And there's still enough room behind the can jam that we can just push it down like that, right over top of it. And that will center it right on our tarp. Then we just pull our can jam out like this. And then we put our other stake in the ground right in here. We fasten the can jam to it. And then of course all we have to do is pull this to tighten it. Just like that. And there's one half of it. We go to the other side, pick another one of our stakes, and we pull this out. We open this up, just like this. Trying to match it evenly side for side. The other side, make sure that this is nice and straight. So you can see what we've created here is a basic A-frame. So I'll go ahead and do the other side, and then I'll show you what that looks like when it's all done. And so here we have our tent. It looks very much just like a pup tent, of course, and some of you folks who have been in the military familiar with this design. It's very quick, very easy to put up, and again, with a little bit of practice, it'll be very easy to do. The other side, you can see how I fastened the top in, and can jam and everything just fits in well to that tarp clip with the pin sticking out and all the pressure and tension, of course, holding it to the ground. So the question is how roomy is it? Well, let's go ahead and lay out our sleeping mat with the silver side up, of course, to reflect our body heat. Go ahead and get that in there. All right, this configuration is pretty small. Again, we have a very small tarp. It's only 6 by 8. If you went with the 8 by 10 version of this, which is only like $3 or $4 more, I think it's less than $12, you'd have a lot more room. But just for size, carryability, and for shelter, this is going to shelter me from the rain and precipitation, snow perhaps if I need to, a whole lot better than just the flying wedge shape. Now you can move this aside a little bit to get in. Of course, it's going to sag a little bit on you, but you may want to do that just for the sake of being able to slide into your shelter a little easier. All right, so once you get in, and you want to move this back in place. Now, I have a lot of room. I've got enough room at my feet for my backpack, so I can scoot back this way and be pretty comfortable. I'd say this is a pretty good design. I really like this. I can feel this silvery side here reflecting my body heat and this off the ground. And of course it's kind of humid today at the end of August, but this would be a great shelter if you know there's a lot of rain and wind coming to protect you. So you can sleep quite comfortably in this. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. Please check the links in the description below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And make sure and press the bell button to stay notified of all of our upcoming videos. And we'll talk to you next time.